Okay. I'm just going to talk about synthetic fibers. The reason for that is, I don't know how many of you know about plastics. Plastics, they tried to initiate into the households and into cars and automobiles and all kinds of transportation equipment back in the late 50s, early 60s. But they had a problem because they had a mold or a fungus that would occur even at the temperatures they sterilized the plastic, and the plastic is made mainly from vegetable oils. So they have a tendency to mold even if they've been sterilized. So they would turn moldy after about anywhere from 9 months to a year. So they couldn't get anything to kill it that was natural, so they made dioxins, PCBs. Purposely made the most cancerous and toxic substances so they could use plastics in everything. When they made it into food, the polyester, all of the other synthetic materials, even that they call rayon, which is from pine needles. When they make pine needles, remember it's a vegetable oil, and by the time they finish processing it is plastic. So every time you inhale a plastic fiber from anything like this, anything like that, so remember, you're inhaling PCBs and dioxins. Your body has to melt that down. And you've got the polymers, which are the hardeners for the epoxies that are in it to keep it all together. So it's highly toxic. Now, when I did a couple of tours in Vietnam 2 years ago, in tours of hospitals, I found that the women in Vietnam were almost wearing 100% polyester clothes. The rate of lung cancer and lung disease is the highest in the world because of those dioxins, those plastics they're breathing. For some reason, the men in Vietnam are not wearing all this plastic. Some in the cities that want to be slick, but most of your men wear cotton. And so you have to take a look at when you're wearing synthetic clothes, all of that lint is plastic, is dioxins, the PCBs, it's the polymers, it is all that very, very toxic stuff. This is the most carcinogenic thing we have on the planet. So you have to consider not to wear, any kind of plastic clothing, any synthetic clothing.
Even if something's like 90, usually even the cotton nowadays, it says 95% cotton, 5% spandex.
Yep.
No good?
Well, it's not good, but it's better than, a higher rate of anything else.
Right.
So you just have to consider how much you're going to be breathing. And people have it in their furniture, their upholstery, their curtains, their rugs. It's everywhere. You won't find not a single thing in my home. I go and choose all cotton upholstery. If there's anything plastic and I have to make my furniture.
What about the inside of the furniture? I mean, that's
I don't. I have it all. I have the. No, I do use down.
The feathers?
Everything's feather and down in my couches. But I have to make it, and I have to put triple because it will flatten.
Yeah.
So I have to put triple filling in it. So I buy extra pillows, and stuff them in there so it doesn't sink as much. But it will sink, and you have to fluff them up. The luxury of having your couch pop back up is, do you want those dioxins? Because they will gas out for 10 years.
What about nylon carpeting?
Nylon carpeting, same thing. It's a plastic. Nylon is plastic.
Everybody's got nylon
No,
carpeting.
they haven't. Not in New
No,
Zealand and
no, you can
Australia.
have wool. I had all wool in my house. The the landlord had plastic under, and I put wool and cotton on top of it. And just this last summer, ripped it all out and put the slate down. So now I have it's nowhere in my house even covered. So.
You took slate. The slate was put with the bed.
Pardon?
You thought slate was the bed.
Yeah.
Well, you use stone, slate, marble.
Yeah.
It's just that I got a beautiful slate, and it wasn't as expensive as some other things.
Right.
It's harder to work with and put in.
Yeah. Chips.
So.
You can't wash it very well.
Porous. Very porous.
Pardon?
Unless it's sealed, you can't wash it. It comes right off.
I put coconut oil.
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah, coconut oil sealed it. Yeah. So. But if you want to put a sealer on that, it doesn't come up. It doesn't flake easily. As long as you're vacuuming once a week, you're not going to be. It's not like the nylon and rayon, that fibers will float. When you've got dust from a sealer on slate or stone, it doesn't dust like that. It's a heavier element, so you can just vacuum it. I mean, if you're rolling on the floor and you have children, you don't want that. But if you're not doing yoga on your floor, then you have to worry about it. But if you are, then you need to put something like coconut oil down to seal it. And it will. It will stop the water from absorbing. And about...
What's our rate of, you said there's a high rate of lung cancer over there in Thailand.
Right.
Thailand?
Vietnam, right.
Isn't that because they're mainly not exactly wearing it, but the factories that they have to work?
Well, we're talking about, in the cities. Of course, you've got more pollution there. You've got motorbikes all over the place, throwing off heavy exhaust, lots of diesel. So there are other factors. But the way on the autopsies, the lungs showed all of this plastic burn. Because when you have polymers and they're breaking down and they're melting tissue, because they do burn tissue, it leaves burn marks. You do have that in some people who smoke, depending on what they're smoking. Like heroin users and opium users will have those similar burns. But this has a definite plastic appearance to the tissue. And of course, they're not going to blame it on anything, and they're not going to advertise it in this country or anywhere, because they hide information like that. It's just like they tell you in this country to stay away from fish with high mercury. Right. Now they say the swordfish is very bad.
Yeah.
That's my favorite, and I eat lots of swordfish. And my mercury level in my body is fairly low compared to what it's supposed to be if you're eating of these so-called contaminated fish. But what they're doing, the government is doing, is hiding the fact that 99% of your mercury poisoning comes from injections from the medical profession. In one vaccine up until 1 year ago, each vaccine contained 76 quadrillion molecules of mercury. 76 you can't even count a quadrillion in your lifetime. And they have 76 quadrillion molecules of mercury in every vaccine. Now the FDA has allowed them to call vaccine-free vaccines when they have 56 quadrillion molecules of mercury. So they've reduced it by about less than a third, and they're allowing, or about a quarter, and they're allowing the pharmaceutical companies to call that mercury-free, and it is not. Mercury-free means mercury-free, not 76 quadrillion molecules of mercury as opposed to 76,000 quadrillion molecules of mercury. It's ridiculous. But that's the way the government works. So one injection of 76 quadrillion molecules of mercury in your lifetime is more than what you would get from eating fish every day. So what they are doing is they want to hide the fact of where all the mercury poisoning is coming from. You know, in some states like New Jersey, children by the time they're 15 and a half have 128 vaccines. Mandatory. Now they're trying to put another one for uterine cancer. And they want children. Texas just made it law. These teenage girls now will be getting injections of HPV. Of HPV. And it hasn't even been proved to stop uterine cancer. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
They had this, I forget it, Channel 10, one of the doctors, that's always their female doctor, and she was just as belligerent about saying, oh, these are mercury-free now, and then there was one person, you know, saying, hey, listen, we want more trials, we want more tests, we're not satisfied with this, and they weren't even listening to it. It was so sad, you know, and nobody's saying, no, stop. You know.
Well, Merck is doing it. Merck is lobbying. And Merck is very big, you know. So
it's whoever has the money.
Whoever has the money, that's right.
This is the governor's funds for election.
Pardon?
They made a big contribution to the governor of Texas.
Texas. Also, they're trying to do it in Iowa. Is it? In Michigan, I think it's the next two states they're pushing for. But Merck has lobbied 28 states for it. And it looks like 28 states are going to make it mandatory. But just remember, every time they tell you it's mandatory, it isn't. There's always a waiver. There are 13 states where you can't get out of it, and you just don't live in those states.
Really?
Yep. And if you want to know what states those are, go to Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. Tenpenney. Tenpenny. And she has it all on her website. And she's an MD who is very much against all vaccines. And she knows the law on which states and the outs for those states and those states that you don't have any out for.
Don't you have rights?
You have rights.
You have to exercise rights?
In those states you have no rights.
But doesn't the federal government overrule the state, or is it federal?
This is federal and state. They work together. They work in harmony with it. See, the federal puts the law out first, then the states follow.
So if it's federal, it'll be mandatory in every state.
No, they don't have to follow. Your states don't have to follow.
So if they're both going along with the program, then it's a done deal?
Yep. I mean, if your state allows an escape, whether the federal government doesn't or not, it's just like it's illegal to have raw milk according to the federal government. But different states have their own laws about it.
You can overrule it.
Absolutely. Your local government's supposed to be stronger than the federal. But just the federal has so much money, they say, if you don't do this law, we're going to cut our gift to you. And that takes hundreds of millions of dollars away from the states, and they want that money. So then the states usually do what the federal government wants. So that's how that works. Okay, I'm going to start doing Q&A now. Start here. You have a question?
Yes. What's the cause and cure of scarlet fever?
Well, did you see Gone with the Wind? She was PMS.
I don't, frankly, Scarlet, I don't give a damn.
You don't like jokes?
I'm hearing it.
Okay. The scarlet fever, it depends on where it is and what causes it. But scarlet fever is an infection in the lungs. Now, when scarlet fever was heavy in this country, they were putting formaldehyde in milk. What? That's what they were preserving formaldehyde with.
The milk.
Milk, yeah. They were delivering milk with formaldehyde, and that was causing a lot of scarlet fever. Also, the first vaccines that came out and they were experimenting with on a large scale without telling the people. The big Spanish flu, that was the first flu shot. The first flu shot. And everybody who got a flu shot got the Spanish flu, and 9 out of 10 of them died. And of course they tell you it was the Great Flu. They killed everybody when it was the vaccine that was killing people. It killed people. Dirk Pearson researched that, and he wrote about it in a book called, it was about 1926 when he published it. It's called Man's Correct Diet. And he documented, he went around and interviewed, because he was from Chicago, and he was part of that whole episode, and he went around interviewing all the people who had gone to allopathic, who got the shots, and 1 out of 7 people died who went to allopaths, and only 1 out of 30 died, something like that, 1 out of 30 that went to naturopaths.
What was this with the Spanish flu?
Spanish flu.
I looked up the definition in the dictionary, scarlet fever.
Streptococcus.
Yeah, acute contagious disease caused by hemolytic streptococcus.
Again, remember that bacteria never causes the disease. They are the janitors. So it's like saying the janitors created the mess. They don't create the mess. Like in dental decay, we hold most of the heavy metals in the brain, most of the free radicals, because the brain uses metallic minerals to conduct electricity and to reflect light in the brain and nervous system. So when you cook a food, you cauterize the minerals, you release all of them, and the heavier metals become free radicals. That means they don't have anything conjoining them to prevent them from doing damage. And unless they are bound, like mercury, it's a neurotoxin. You release it and set it free, and it will dissolve neurons. They'll just start taking them apart. And if you want to see a CDC on that, a DVD on that, you go to Alberta University, put neurons and mercury, DVD, and you come up with that DVD or that film where they show neurons growing, and they drop in a 2% solution of thimerosal, which they use in vaccines and eye wash and methylated mercurochrome, and you just see these neurons just disintegrating. 2% solution. It's that deadly. So that's what happens when minerals, even though they're metallic, and it can be strychnine, it can be mercury, it can be any of those. When they're combined in food, they're conjoined, they're chelated, and they have a good benefit. But when it's fractionated from cooking, they lose those bonds, and then there's nothing to regulate the activity. So mercury and strychnine, all of those things that are normal in the earth, minerals, become dangerous in the system. So when you cook, you release all of those. When the brain detoxifies, it detoxifies through the gums, tongue, and salivary glands, mainly. So when the heavy metals like mercury and there's another like lead and thiamine, when they leave the brain and go past the teeth, the body will take a lot of calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and bind and potassium and take it. That's what causes plaque on your teeth. And if you don't get enough of that plaquing around those heavy metals, it burns the dentine. Burns the dentine, literally burns the dentine cells. That is your cavity. Then the bacteria come to eat up the decayed tissue in the tubules and the dentine. And they're not there, they're the janitors. They were called in because of the damage that the heavy metals did, leaving the brain, coming out the gums, and damaging the teeth. So the streptococcus is a result of poisons going into the lungs. Scarlet fever was also big because in cities like London, Paris, New York City, Boston, all these major cities, everybody had poor ventilation, and they were burning coal or some source in their homes. They were burning wood or coal to cook with and to heat their homes, and they were constantly getting vapors in their homes. In the streets, it was just thick, like in London. It was thick. Other areas, when you're near the coast, when you have the fog, it sits in there heavily. London isn't fogged in. That's a myth. I don't know where that comes from. But I've never seen fog in London. That's what they put in the movies with Jack the Ripper to make it look interesting. But when you're on the coast, yes, you do have fog in those coast cities. And the smoke will get worse. There was a fog land about 15 years ago in Wales, and there's a nearby factory that was letting its smoke off, and one of the byproducts was aluminum, formaldehyde, and mercury, and it held into the fog in this farm, and it killed all of the cows. This is a fog. So you can imagine what happens to humans subjected to that every day. Coal has a mercury gas. So that mercury crystallizes and you get it into your lungs. It's going to do serious damage. You do the damage, what do you have? You've got damaged tissue. What does the body usually use in the lungs? Streptococcus to clean the lungs. That's one of the major bacteria to clean the lungs. So you've got this damage there, and you've got streptococcus, but then the medical profession points its finger at the streptococcus, who are the janitors. Oh, the janitors do it. It's like the butler did it, you know. The janitors did it. It has nothing to do with the janitors.
What about aspergillus? Is that used for that? Aspergillus?
Aspergillus?
Yeah,
what about it?
Is that used as well to clean up the lungs?
Absolutely. Any bacteria, virus, fungus, parasite is always there to clean up the toxic tissue. I proved that when I took animals who had parasites and gave the animals who had some of the animals who had the parasites dewormers. Killed the worms in their body. The animals that we fed raw food and kept them with their parasites, within a year they discarded, well, about 6 months they got rid of all of the signs, major signs of parasites. But when they were healthier, they were younger, they were more vibrant, and we did autopsies on them 3 years later, they had all of this gorgeous, young, like, vibrant tissue. It was, deep red, but vibrant at the same time. Whereas the animals who we killed the parasites in with pharmaceutical dewormers, their organs were black. Their glands were black. Even the lungs were black. So it showed that the parasites clean up garbage quickly. A parasite can eat 100 times its weight in 24 hours. And its excrement is like 1 to 5%. So like I've said before, it's like you eating 100 pounds in 24 hours, or 100 times your weight. So, you know, it'd be like eating 1,500, 1,600 pounds in 24 hours and having 100 pounds of waste the next day. That's pretty efficient. You know, so I'd much rather have a parasite or a bacteria feeding on this toxic tissue and reducing it to a little feces. 10,000 pounds. 10,000 pound turd. 10,000 pounds of eating. 10,000
Right.
pounds.
You said 10 times your own weight.
Yeah, 10 times. So I'm 180, so that would be, yeah. Yeah, 1,800 pounds. Yeah, 1,800 pounds. And then that's 1% of that would be, you know, 100-pound bowel movement, you know, 180-pound bowel movement. I'll take that over having to clean up, you know, 1,800 pounds of waste. I'd rather clean up 180. And when you have no bacteria and no fungus or no parasites to do that, your body uses virus. And viruses are not alive. They have no respiratory system. They have no nucleus.
Why is it contagious? Why?
It isn't contagious.
Okay, why the kids at the school and everybody's all of a sudden got coughing and there's 9,000 kids that are sick? You know what I'm saying? They say the flu.
Because it's seasonal.
Seasonal. And how is one catching it from the other
You're not
person?
catching it.
You're not catching it.
It's seasonal. You're gonna have, that's like saying bears are contagious. You know, the bears come out of hibernation, let's say, in Colorado first. And then they move up to Iowa, and then Dakotas, Wyoming, and then it goes into Canada and up to Alaska. That's like saying bears are contagious. Seasonal. They go into hibernation, they come out of hibernation.
So it's like
Seasonal. Exactly. Sometimes
So they
somebody's...
don't catch it specifically from another child.
they're eliminating it.
Pardon?
They're eliminating it.
They're eliminating...
Whatever they have, when they get sick, it's just an elimination.
Yeah, it's eliminating whatever the virus has broken
So
down.
that all at the same season having the same reaction.
Yes.
It's not like they're catching it from one another.
Yeah, it's like saying, you know, okay, a rooster crows at the sun. Does a rooster cause the sun to rise?
Yes.
You know? Yet all of these roosters are crowing at sunrise. So if you stop the crows from the roosters from crowing, does the sun stop? No. You know, so you can have all the antibiotics in the world, doesn't stop it. Take a look at the tests that came out of UK about December. They tested 8,000 people with the flu vaccine. Groups didn't get it, and the groups that got it. And the 8,000 people that got the vaccine, they couldn't even prove by 1% that flu vaccine was worthwhile. There was maybe a slight bit of just under 1% less flu in the group that had the vaccine to those that didn't have it. So there's no evidence that the flu vaccine works. It's marketing. It's a big game.
What about all these people in the hospital? I mean, you're saying that if you get pneumonia, if you get something, and people in the hospital, because they're so deficient in their immune system that the antibiotics are making them worse, or is it actually helping them when they get better? If they don't go on, let's say somebody has pneumonia, they go in the hospital and they have antibiotics and all that. You're saying, hey, and what if I have this person? What if I'm at home and I'm just having pneumonia and I just continue to eat well? Will I get better and that person will be better too? Or
no, the person who doesn't have the antibiotics will get better quicker if they're on a good diet. Take, for example, I had a woman with AIDS come to me 2 years ago. She had pneumonia 3 times before she came to me within an 8-week period. That's why she came to me, because she was just fed up with the medical profession.
So she had the antibiotics.
And she had the antibiotics all those 3 times, plus to put on oxygen. I said, Pam, the next time you've got to go through it.
Oh.
Don't lie down. Because when you lie down and your lungs are going through a detoxification, the gravity pushes your lungs shut and you won't be able to breathe and you're going to panic. You have to sit up and sleep sitting up so the gravity pushes the lungs open. So there's no problem breathing. So sure enough, she was on the diet 2 weeks and she went through pneumonia again. The first night she panicked a little bit because she did lie down and then she sat up right away. She just had a little bit of difficulty breathing, but it was over in 2 days. And she didn't take oxygen once and she was out of the bed. When she came to me, she came in a wheelchair with oxygen. After she got through that pneumonia, she cleaned out enough and she was off the oxygen, she was out of a wheelchair. And that's what I told her. I said, you've got to get through the pneumonia without stopping it, without poisoning yourself with antibiotics. And it worked, just like that. I was a little nervous about it because she had been through 3 bouts of it in 8 weeks before she came to me, and then 2 weeks, so it's 10 weeks altogether. She'd been through it, and that's a lot of antibiotics. So I was a little nervous what she might experience, but it still worked. And I'm using that one because that was the worst case scenario. I have many people that come to me with pneumonia. And if you're on the diet and you go through pneumonia, you just go to work. It's everybody around you that panics because you're coughing and phlegm's coming up, and they say, "You're going to give it to me. You're going to give it to me." And you don't. It isn't contagious. It's not alive.
I'm just going to share something. My boys, I never gave them the shots when they were babies, and we were in Colorado, and my son got the whooping cough. He was 9.5 months old, and my girlfriend's son also got the whooping cough. We had both decided, well, we weren't going to give the boys the shot. I went down to Texas, and I was doing a fast. Joey was down there doing a fast. We brought the baby down. My girlfriend did give her son the whooping cough shot. He suffered for weeks and weeks.
It took about 1.5 years to recover.
He suffered for a very long time.
My son got better in like 2 days.
In 4 days.
4 days.
He was 9.5 months. We fasted him just on water. I stopped breastfeeding him just for those few days. He was fine in 4 days, and he started nursing again, and he was perfect.
Yeah.
So
I always believe never interfere with elimination.
Absolutely.
Never try to suppress it. But there was a situation, and I don't know what happened. Cindy got really sick, and I was telling her, it's cool, just chill. You don't need a doctor, blah blah blah. And she kept on getting sicker, and she had 106 fever. And she lost 30 pounds in 4 days. Now, I was stalling to buy time, but she had flesh-eating disease. In her arm, it was spreading really, really quick. So, I got, after 4 days, and it was getting really bad, so she was going to die. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
So, I brought her to the hospital, and she went to the hospital. She was in the hospital 4 or 5 months total. And it spread, and she had to have all this stuff here removed and everything. So I don't know if I didn't interfere with it at that time. Maybe it suppressed the elimination, which was good.
No, it's just
I don't know what the answer was.
A lot of fruit deteriorates the protein in the body. So if you're on a fruitarian diet or a hygienic diet, you're going to break down the proteins in your body, and you're much more susceptible to breaking down in these, because you can damage tissue very severely with advanced glycation end products.
Because this was moving, traveling 90 miles an hour.
So she had already damaged the tissue, and that was there was cleaning it up. But if you're on a bad diet,
what diet were you on?
I think I was still in fish at the time. I don't think that I wasn't eating strictly food, that kind of thing. But I was also at the time doing something very bad. I was using an antiperspirant which must have had aluminum in it, and
that damaged you.
That's what did it. It wasn't, that's what did it. But, that was my own ignorance. And here I am to talk about it, so. Anyway, so.
I'm not saying doesn't stop and save lives sometimes, but if you're on a good diet, you don't have to think about it. Now, when I was a fruitarian, I got a strep throat so bad that it shut off my throat and I couldn't breathe. I mean, I literally stopped breathing. So I called a doctor who was a friend of my uncle's, who was studying for his doctorate at UCLA, and I told him the situation. So my voice like this, because I barely talked, and I was in excruciating pain. I really could not breathe, and I even took because I was still crawling around on the floor because I'd been paralyzed from the radiation and chemotherapy, and it deteriorated all the bone around my teeth, so my teeth dangled. So if I bit down like that, I'd lose a cup of blood. I had to eat my own blood because I was getting deficient. I was getting transfusions sometimes 2 a week. So I drink my own blood so I wouldn't have to have so many transfusions when I bleed like that. So I was drinking out of these huge straws, and I was eating, donuts with RC Cola blended together, That's what I did back then, I didn't know any better. So, I took that straw and put it down my throat just to keep it open. And the doctor came for a house call, this was 1970 or 1969. And they gave me an injection of penicillin. Stopped it just like that within a few hours. But that wasn't the healthiest way to do it. Because now penicillin is one of the worst inventions we've ever had. Because penicillin is a mold, just like the molds in plastics. It comes back from the dead, even if you sterilize it. And most of the Crohn's disease that I've seen, and most of the inflammatory bowel syndrome that I've seen, comes from penicillin molds that still grow in the body. Most of the brain damage that I see done is from the penicillin molds that are growing in the body. So I'm not saying it isn't useful for people on a bad diet, but if you're on a good diet, you don't want to use those methods.
I never thought it was useful for anything, so I never did it. But in that case, I was a little freaked out.
My grandmother got scarlet fever at 7 and became deaf after the stroke.
Well, you have to understand, they were using mercury. They were, like they put methylated mercurochrome on.
The pink stuff.
Yeah, that's mercury, liquid mercury. It's anti-everything. It kills anything, especially neurons. They were coating throats with it. With scarlet fever. Gets into the ears, that's it. They're gone. Your hearing's gone. Just like that.
So it wasn't the cows, John.
Yeah.
This is something I found.
Oh, Prairie Farms Creamery. Pasteurized dairy products. Diphtheria destroyed. Oh, this is bullshit. It's got the temperatures of these bacteria that are destroyed at different temperatures. Tuberculosis has never been proven to transmit and transfer in milk, raw milk. In fact, it's proved to destroy it. Even UC Davis in San Francisco proved that anytime they spiked the milk, raw milk, with any bacteria, any at all, tuberculosis, anything, the lactic acids killed it. Just like that.
In the raw milk.
In the raw milk. In the raw milk. Not in the pasteurized milk, because it will grow in the pasteurized milk, because it breaks down the lactic acid. So.
If you want to see this, I'll pass it around. It's something I found. And I
so funny. Oh my God.
Where did you find that, John?
The propaganda that they can spread.
You collect papers.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah, Grandma.
So I understand that you don't like vaccination, right?
Absolutely, against everyone.
Okay, so I'm going to be traveling internationally abroad in third world countries in 10 years. So
You're louder?
I'm going to repeat.
Okay. What fundamentals from the raw food diet would you recommend that would enhance my immune system between now and May? And then what would you recommend once I get over there to kind of focus on to get bang for my buck if I can get my hands on raw food?
You can.
Yeah.
She's going to third world countries. She's going to start traveling in May. I've suggested no vaccines, so she wants to know how to protect herself. First of all, the vaccines don't protect you from anything. They poison your system. There are many times. They used to use formaldehyde. They used mercury. They used arsenic as remedies because they would stop detoxifications. They would stop symptoms. Because when a body is detoxifying, it has aches and pains. If you poison the body's going to spend all of its energy on getting rid of those poisons. And it's going to stop the symptoms of that detoxification because the body's going to stop the detoxification. And that's how it works. So they aren't really improving your health. They're making it worse because they're poisoning it. So let me give you an example. In 1986, one of my patients, Tony Plana, was cast as one of the major leads, the third lead in a film called Latino, which is being shot in Nicaragua. It was about our U.S. intervention in Nicaragua, Nicaraguan government. Very, democratic. Everything was democratic, but they didn't like the lean of it. They weren't democratic to big business. They were democratic for the people. So they didn't like that. So they were interfering with the government in Nicaragua. So that film was about that. Haskell Wexler was directing it. Tony brought a sheet to me, double-sided, and all the things that you weren't supposed to do in the jungles there, because they're going to be shooting in the swamps and the jungles. And Nicaragua has more water than any other of those Central American countries. Mosquitoes, everything. So they weren't allowed to drink the water unless it was boiled. They were not allowed to eat any fruit, any vegetables, unless they were steamed. I mean, nothing was to be eaten raw at all. And if you went into the swamp, you were not allowed to touch your face, and you were not allowed to touch your hair, and you had to wash thoroughly with chemicals, with poisons, over anything organic. And I said, Tony, and they, of course, meat had to be well done, not rare. And I said, Tony, do the opposite of everything it says. Drink the swamp water. Do everything it says not to do. So they were down there, supposed to be down there 2 months, so that was 5 weeks. They were supposed to be down there something like 8 weeks shooting. On the 4th week, everybody got sick but Tony. Tony ate the raw meat. He ate everything, raw. He touched his face. He drank some of the swamp water. He was the only one that didn't get sick. Robert Beltran, the main lead, got so sick they shut the film down for 5 weeks. And if you see the film Latino, he goes from a good, well-stocked man. He was also doing the diet. The 3 leads were on this diet. The woman who was the lead was just doing it a little bit. But the 2 main leads, Robert Beltran and Tony Plana, were doing the diet, so they were good and heavy. But as soon as Robert went down there, he did everything they told him to do on those sheets, and he was the sickest one on the set. He lost 50 pounds. So you see him going so they had to write in there that he got sick. They had to show him being sick to account for his weight loss. So ignore that kind of stuff. When I go to a third world country where they say I need a yellow fever vaccine, and that is the only vaccine that they require in the world in this country, is the yellow fever. The way you can get away with it, you don't put down on any documentation that you're going into the jungles. If I'm going into Peru, you have to have it. If you're going to Uruguay, some African countries, you have to have the yellow fever vaccine. If you don't say you're going into the jungles, you just go into a major city, no vaccines required. So I went into Iquitos. When I went into Peru, no vaccine. I took a bus, no record of me taking a bus into the jungles. So that's what you do. You just don't let any record come about that you're going off into one of those areas. Now, if you're going with a group, it's going to be different. Okay.
It's with a friend. So as you convert to raw food and transform your
But you will have to lie on the documentation on those forms. They're going to say, did you go into the jungles?
Right.
No. Just outright lie. No.
Preserve all your rights.
Yes. Right. It's your right to lie if they want to make you do something. On telling the truth, if they're forcing you to do something that's not good for you, then a lie is a defense.
Okay.
Justifiable defense.
What's the most bang for your buck as you convert to raw food diet? Because it's not only a mind, spirit, body, but it's also financially transformation.
Well, you need to stay away from fruit if you're going into a jungle.
No, I'm saying like here, like raw food in general, like because I'm starting also.
Butter will give you the great. Butter and meat will give you, and butter, meat, and honey. Those will give you the best of everything.
Because when I was converting over to organic food, one of the recommendations was, all right, it's financially different. Do dairy to begin with. Knock it all out. All organic dairy. So that was a nice
Well, dairy's very good. I drink, when I'm here, before I go to Asia, I chow down on the dairy because I can't get much there in Asia. And when I get it, it's goat's milk, and that takes too much weight off of me because it has adrenal hormone precursors. So I don't drink goat's milk. I only recommend goat's milk for my clients that are very overweight and those that are diabetic. And that's it for the goat's milk. And everybody else should have cow's milk. And I fatten myself up. I'll drink a half a gallon or more of milk a day, usually almost 3 quarts a day before I go. And right now I'm up to 26% body fat. That 26% body fat for the average individual, nobody here is that big. I was just in Florida, and I was standing up there. I lost about 2 pounds since I was in Florida last weekend, and there was this guy that was this rotund that was sitting in a chair, and I said, "I'm 27% body fat." He says, "I'm 26% body fat." And I said, "I've been living on raw fat since 1974. My fat molecules are very tiny and concentrated." When you cook a fat, any food with fat in it, it's like taking a kernel of corn and popping it. It swells 10 to 50 times its normal size. So I'm a real fatty, but I don't look it. But that's a good protective fat. My fat's concentrated. So I do load myself up with dairy, but if you want to strengthen yourself, you want meat, butter, and honey. You want to fatten yourself up, you have lots of milk on top of it. Still not, This one just shut off. What you want to do is get cheap meats. All the hunter tribes say the toughest meat makes the best muscle and the best tissue in your body. So you get the cheap cuts, the chuck, the top round, the bottom round, the sirloin, all of the cheaper cuts. That's the way to cut corners and give yourself better health. The Eskimos, when I lived with the Eskimos, they would take the filet mignon and throw it to the dog. And I say, my God, you're throwing $22, a pound meat away. Yeah, and they said, because theirs very expensive. Meat in Alaska, frightfully expensive. And they said, well, it builds very weak tissue. And I said, well, Jesus, you've got huskies pulling your sleds. You don't want them weak. And they said, well, they eat bones, lots of bones, and that counterbalances so they can eat that very tender, soft, no-fat meat because they eat all those bones. Okay, do you have a question? Okay, do you have a question?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. The iridology. Do you practice the same type of iridology that Jensen practiced?
No.
Where did you learn yours?
I developed mine from observation.
Well, how could I learn it?
You can until I have a clinic open.
What about
I'm going to be doing that once I open a clinic. There are too many nuances.
So you had to spin off something though at the base.
Well, I studied Jensen. Well, I first got a book. The first time I found out about it, when I was working in Antilles, I had access to ordering. I was ordering all the books. And let me tell you, I spent a week going through every book that I could order. And I found some spectacular books that there were few copies of. And I got one that was written in German in 1684 by a woman doctor named Anne something. I can't remember what it was. And I had a German friend translate it for me, and it was the iridology, book on iridology. And, their methods in 1684 were pretty primitive. Their microscopes, their way of viewing everything, was not detailed. When I started doing autopsies with animals and stuff, and I would see the tissue changes and dissolve it, I would look at I had pictures of their eyes. So I looked at the difference in the tissue structure and what was occurring in that particular gland. So I could say, oh, that's what mercury in a gland looks like. That's what high levels of sulfur in a gland looks like. That's what high amounts of aluminum in the brain looks like. So I was able to develop that over a 30-year period. So I didn't even write my book on nutrition. I didn't start writing my book till 1992, 1993. I had 28 years of experience before I was arrogant enough to think that I knew anything. And I had to have positive responses on 80% of the stuff that's in my books. I mean, all of it had to work at least 80% of the time, but mostly 85% of the time. But it doesn't work with everybody all the time. It may work with somebody, a particular remedy may work perfectly for somebody for 2 years, and then one time it doesn't work, and then after that it does again. It's, but I only use things that work for the majority of the time. So that's why, even though there's no advertising with this diet, it works. People tell other people see other people who go through their changes, and they do it. I'm not an evangelist. I don't go out preaching anywhere. I go only to where I'm called. I stopped doing health food shows because I don't want to get out there and stand out there in front of a bunch of vegetarians about to puke or kill me. You know,
What?
you know, it's not in my best interest, and it's waste of my time.
But in all your travels over all these years, has nobody taken an interest or somebody with powerful people in Hollywood to actually make your stuff known? So, you know, we can have another side of the coin. You know, with, you know, why aren't you on PBS? You know what I'm saying? I don't
Because
know.
it's too radical.
Remember when we were on TV in San Diego? He talked, and then the next day he talked about bacteria.
Or I
They
didn't
didn't
know.
for you. They don't want that on TV.
Yeah, and when I was on,
Everything else, it's like they do with our government.
What about PBS,
What we're being
though?
said
I mean,
is
you
like
know, if-
malarkey, you know, they don't want you to know.
and look, they had me on Fox News.
Yeah, when we were down here, and he interviewed me at my house, and they interviewed him, and cut
I never
and
saw it.
said,
Well, they showed it for the morning. Well, yeah, they showed it live. So I did a live. I did a 5 o'clock show, I think it was. So I did the 4:30, 5 o'clock show, and it was supposed to be rerun for the evening night program, and they cut it because I was talking about bacteria. I was talking about doctors a little bit. I was talking about raw meat. Every subject they don't want. I was booked for Oprah 6 years ago. When she saw that it was raw meat, she cut me right off the show. I did cut off shows.
Because of the liability she felt?
She was, you know how people are brainwashed that raw meat is bad for you. Yet half of these people have eaten steak tartare, they've eaten sashimi, they've eaten carpaccio or ceviche, and yet they don't put two and two
when
together.
They went on Ed Sullivan.
What they do?
Remember when George went on Ed Sullivan?
Yeah.
They said they were going to leave that out of the song, and then they just threw it right in. He didn't compromise. That's what you should have did.
I did, but they cut my show. That's what I'm saying. They cut it.
You just said no. You mentioned a raw meat. Then when you got on, just
That's what he did.
I did.
You did?
With Fox News last year.
They showed it, and then they wouldn't replay it.
They wouldn't replay it that evening. They just cut it.
But what I'm saying is there's nobody in Hollywood that follows your diet that thinks it's worth it.
Martin She's on and off of it. But
Demi Moore also?
Demi Moore's a vegetarian, fruitarian, raw fooder. That's why she's so freaking skinny and drying up.
You know, because my girlfriend said to me she saw her in New York. She said, Demi Moore's doing the diet. I said, I don't think so, Myrna. I don't think Demi Moore's doing the diet because she's so thin. So she said, well, you know those Hollywood people, they don't gain weight. So I said, no, I'm not diet. You gain weight. I said, no, not
Mel Gibson was the only one who came out and said, I eat raw meat on the David Letterman show. Nobody carried him after that. Except for the, you know, the trash papers, the tabloids, you know. They said, they were always mentioning that he was
what's the
eating
deal
raw
with him?
meat.
He's not looking too good, though. Gibson, like.
Well, he got off the diet a year ago.
Oh.
So,
In the price.
and started drinking again.
Yes.
I have my question. I'm not in love with dairy, okay? So I've been making coconut cream myself and eating a lot of it. And I noticed that since I was a raw foodist for a while without any animal fat, I did add chicken into my diet now. I did add fish into my diet. I try to eat meat, but not the dairy. So my question is, I have been feeling much better since I started this, much. And I used to get tremendous aches and pains while I was on a vegetarian diet, vegan. It was raw vegan. I don't have that anymore. I just want to add that into this also. And I was just wondering, how quickly does a person detox when they're eating a lot of coconut cream? I mean, I'm eating a lot.
Too much.
They detox too much. Too quickly.
Yeah, but you can survive that for a little while.
Yeah.
You know, you could do it for a while, but
Definitely.
probably in a year you're going to have you're going to have a wall. It's going to hit you hard. You're just going to start puking every time you eat it.
But that's
You just
good
won't
too.
be able to.
That's
No,
good.
because
No,
then you
not
won't be
good.
able to eat anything. You keep doing that.
Okay, so I have to cut back on. I have to cut
You'll
back
have
on
to
my
cut back on it at
coconut
that
cream.
time, and then you'll start eating some butter,
How
and
many ounces?
you'll probably be better able to digest dairy.
I just can't stand the smell of the raw
I don't know,
butter.
I don't think that you can.
smell it.
I don't think you can digest it very well right now.
Yeah.
You were a raw vegetarian too long.
Long time.
Don't smell it. Don't.
Just remember, people who are raw vegetarians lose all of their. They over alkalinize their intestines. They lose all of their acid bacteria that digest animal products. So when they start eating it, sometimes they have a difficult time on this diet at first with dairy. So eat cream, that's usually better. A little bit of milk, but butter may be way too heavy for you.
Yeah, I do.
Because it even destroys the liver's ability to make a bile that digests butter. Still will digest cream, even though cream is harder than butter, except for some vegetarians.
Cream doesn't bother me. It doesn't
Yeah.
make me nauseous.
You're welcome. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a background question because I'm a newbie here, this is my first time. I've read the first half of your one of your books, the We Want to Win book, and I guess my question is, I gathered from that, I kind of read the intro and stuff and how you researched many diets all throughout the world, and how did you kind of come to the place where you felt that, I think raw food is the answer for, all these diseases and ailments, like what kind of put you on this path, and how did you think outside the box?
Well, it's in the story.
Is it in? Okay.
Yeah, it's in there. The man who volunteered to help me die, from the hospice, he introduced me to carrot juice, and then it went from there. The more raw food I introduced into my body, the better I got, or the less pain I had, which was better to me. So, and then when I started eating tremendous amounts of dairy, milk and cheeses, and lots of raw cottage cheeses that I made myself, I started getting better. All the bone around my teeth grew in like 7 months. I replaced all the bone in my gums in 7 months. That was phenomenal, spectacular, because they wanted to pull all my teeth for the last 3 months that I was going to live. And I said, do you want me to suffer extractions for the last 3 months of my life? Are you completely stupid? Yes, doctors are completely stupid. I'm sorry, but they are. And they're trained to be stupid. It isn't that they really came out that way. They're trained to be stupid. So, do you have a question?
Just a quick one. With Alicia, when she eats the chicken, should she have lubrication formula after that?
It's always a good idea. She'll put more weight if she does.
Okay. And when you take a cruise, can you bring your own food, or what would you recommend?
When you what?
When you take a cruise, like a 7-day cruise or something, have you known people to? Can you bring your food on the ship or not?
I've done it, and I've had clients who've done it. It's a matter of going to the chef and telling them that you are on a specific diet, and it's very important for your health, and they'll give you a little section in the refrigerator, and you'll get permission. They'll give you permission. They will introduce you. Yes, absolutely. You got exactly what you want.
But how can you eat it if you're in and out of the? Do they prepare it for you? I wouldn't let them touch the food.
No, you just go in and you get it yourself. Even when I was.
Did you go anyone?
I did a commercial for Club Med. So I was in the Bahamas at Nassau, that one. I had all my own food. And they gave me a specific part in the cooler. I went in and got it when I wanted it. They did prepare me, raw lamb and lots of stuff.
Will?
I had a French chef, at the Club Med. So And then I've gone to other Club Meds because I was one of their actors, in their commercials. So I went to several of them, and even on Guadalupe, that island, they took care of me all the time. I had a section in the refrigerator. I went and got my own food, and they always prepared what I wanted. If I wanted a raw steak, they prepared a raw steak. If I wanted raw lamb chops, they gave me raw lamb chops.
Isn't everything frozen on the ship now? They don't get it.
Well, on the ships, everything's frozen, but still better than nothing.
You will eat frozen meat?
If I have to, I've eaten frozen meat because that's all I've had the choice of at times.
So frozen fish or meat.
Yeah, and I eat my butter with it for sure. Some honey.
Oh, what would you ask them to prepare? You just saying they gave you a lamb chop or something on a plate?
Well, they usually like to decorate it, so they may put some, I say, give me some chopped onions. Yeah, I'm serious. I stand once a week to lecture, and that's about it. The rest of the time, carrying my groceries once a week, that's my exercise. Otherwise, like Cary Grant, remember his exercise? This is all he would ever do. And that's what I do on my computer. So, when you're healthy, you don't have to exercise. Of course, I'm not against exercise. I have no activity rings, which means I secrete and produce hormones very low levels for physical activity. For people who produce a lot of physical activity hormones, they have to exercise. If they don't, they go into anxiety. So it's like if you have anxiety, probably it's because you're not doing enough activity. So I tell people, when you wake up in the morning, you look at two doors. One's anxiety, one's activity. Which one do you want to spend your time in? Which room? Anxiety or activity? And that's the way it is. And some people have a lot of activity lines, rings in their eyes. I have none.
What if you have a lot of activity rings? All you want to do is sleep, not if you want to die.
Well, that you need to sleep, but if you get anxious, then you need to exercise.
Does he look anxious?
Not yet. He's healing. He's in a state of healing, so he won't have a lot of activity. His body won't use the hormones for activity. Use them to clean up and heal the body. Then when he gets well enough, then he's going to start producing a lot of physical activity hormones.
You said you used to sleep 20 hours a day. For how long?
Yeah.
Probably 6 years after the chemo and radiation.
I'm not doing 20, I'm doing about 14.
If you never had chemo or radiation, then would you need that long?
No, probably, anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, some people who have chronic fatigue and chemical sensitivity need to sleep 14 hours a day. 10 to 14, depending upon the individual.
So then you better watch that part of your life while you're in the sleep world.
Yeah, it's like a lot of my chemically sensitive people who were very poisoned as infants and just traveled with them, so they came to me at a very deteriorated state. As soon as I get them fat enough and they sleep for about a year, with all that fat, then they turn into different people. Because they have the fat to absorb all the poison so it stops damaging their tissue. As long as those poisons keep damaging their live cells, they stay weak, they stay exhausted. But when they have the fat to go into, there's no problem.
But there's sensitivities ever go away?
Pardon?
The chemically sensitive people, do the sensitivities
They get
ever
better.
go away?
I used to be terribly sensitive. I couldn't go into a movie theater or anything. I still don't like to go into a movie theater because they get worse. Most of your perfumes have formaldehyde in it. They're putting that on their skin and breathing it. So if I go to a movie theater, I've got a big screen. I've got a screen that pulls down in my home, and I have cable, so I get movies. So I don't go to the theaters anymore.
Yeah, but you fly. I mean, you're right next to people if they have perfume on, or how do you deal with that?
If somebody's really bad, I ask to change. Absolutely. If somebody's reading a newspaper, I say be very careful with that and hold it slowly. So I've been very lucky. I've only had to move a couple of times. I think being on an isolated plane, most people use less. But in movie theaters, they go on dates. Everybody wants to stink for a mile, you know. And what I do is, especially some of men's cologne is worse than women. So I'll go to a movie theater, and if I go to a movie theater, it's always planned. I've got a good rotten piece of chicken leg that I take with me, and I'll sit right in the center. And if I smell anybody's perfume or cologne, I pull it out and I start eating. And it stinks so badly. People are going, and they turn around and look at me, and I'm smiling, eating this leg of chicken that stinks. I clear out 2 rows in front, 2 rows in back. Now these rows don't go forward and they don't go back, they go to the sides because they're afraid they're going to catch some disease from this raw chicken. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But it works.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah, and if they say to me, why do you bring that in here? And they did. They brought the usher down. And I said, if you stop them from putting their perfume and stenches on, I won't bring my high meat.
We accidentally had high meat now. The Julie left the jar of meat in one of the book bags that we sold now. It's still in the jar. We haven't aired it out.
Well, air it out because it's not going to grow much.
How
But you need to air it out so the bacteria grow.
Yeah, so for
then
bacteria
you
growth.
can eat that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you didn't want to. Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Okay, we lost the seating, so you have a question, Joe. No questions? Barbara.
I just want to ask again, because people, and I'm not clear enough to be able to explain this. You know how so many children die in the third world countries from mosquito bites and all that stuff? You know, there's so many dying. If they're brought up in that country and they have all these, they're amongst all these diseases all the time and all these microbes, why are they dying of them as well?
They're not dying from mosquito bites.
Well,
that's what they're being told.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's the female mosquito. She puts her proboscis in there. She bites all the cells. The amount of saliva that she deposits is minor. And she sucks the blood up. She creates a pool of blood and sucks it up. In the blood secretions that I've drawn in mosquito bites, I couldn't find any. Not one trace of saliva. Not one filaria, which they say comes from mosquito bites, causing elephantiasis. And not one in there. So you have to understand that these people are lying for a reason. What are they hiding? They hide a lot of poisoning of these tribes to get rid of them. Oh, these children are dying of this disease. They came from mosquitoes or some frog or you remember the swine flu, came from the pigs. Now it's the avian flu, it's coming from the birds. They're always blaming on something in nature when it has nothing to do with those creatures at all.
What about malaria?
Malaria is the same thing. Okay. Malaria is eating a lot of high carbohydrate foods and going into a jungle environment. Remember, high carbohydrate food feeds insects. I don't eat fruit when I go into the jungles. I don't get near anything sweet. If I eat just a little section, when I go through the jungles in Thailand or Burma or Myanmar now, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia. Even when I went down the Mekong River through into Vietnam, all those, I never get bitten because I don't eat fruit. You know, one time I ate a section of watermelon this big. I got bitten 5 times that night. You have to understand that these people eat a tremendous amount of high carbohydrate food. I'm with these people who grow up in this land, this territory. They get bitten and I don't. Why? Because they eat all this high carbohydrate food. They eat all of this rice. They eat this sweet fruit. And it just feeds because of the female and doesn't eat that blood. She goes back to the little puddle where her little tadpoles are, or the eggs are, and she vomits the blood. And that feeds her offspring. That's what they need the blood for. She doesn't use it for herself. The little bitty male mosquito is 1/10 the size of the female. He has a very small proboscis nose, and he pollinates those little tiny flowers. So does the female. That the bees that are too small for the bee to pollinate. So that is the role of mosquitoes, is to pollinate those tiny little flowers. But she needs blood to feed her offspring. Most of these children who are dying, and they're saying they're dying of mosquito bites, you give to UFE, what is it, UCEF, UNICEF, you know where they get the food to feed these children and these people, their care packages? They go to General Foods, General Mills, get the worst garbage food in the world. They get powdered milk, and they mix it with water. The most diseases that were created are created from powdered milk, according to the Pottinger tests. The worst, most chronic diseases were created with powdered milk. Why what?
Why any worse than any other?
Don't know. Maybe it's so over-processed, I don't know, but it did. It created the worst diseases. So you feed these children these very bad foods, they're not going to say they died from malnourishment because you've been giving your aid. Government has been giving its aid and paying these cereal companies and these dairy companies exorbitant amounts of money for you to help feed these poor people. And they're poisoning these people with the worst foods that they could give them.
So going back to malaria just very quickly, like they say that malaria is the most common contractable.
So they say it's contractable. We don't know it's contractable.
But there's so much of it. Like so many people get it from whatever. So why don't I get malaria?
How many cases of malaria do you know where people die?
They say there's millions that die every year.
That's a lie.
So I'm just reading that's what.
Just think about it. One UK man, one Briton died 2 years ago in Thailand from malaria. One person. He took all the malaria medicine and still got malaria and died. You have to understand that you have to not believe what you're being told. It is absolute garbage and lies.
You
have to forget all of that. Forget all of that information. And when anybody says that, you say, how many people do you know who died of malaria? Because let me tell you, like that one man who died from UK, that was on the news forever. Why did they pick one person who was really not that, he wasn't even a well-known, he was just a student, a guy. Why did they plug that one? Because it builds their story. The malaria is this deadly thing. Now, why, if he took the malaria medicine, did he die of malaria? So you have to really take a look at it and say, the whole information is bad.
So then what is malaria?
Well, you have just like you have poliomyelitis. Everybody in this room has poliomyelitis. You have the poliomyelitis bacteria, and there's also a virus that is similar in its reaction in your spinal cord. Every one of you has it. Is it active or not? What makes it active? Damaged tissue in the spinal cord. If you have damaged, decayed tissue in your spinal cord, your poliomyelitis will be active. It's that simple. It's all part of your body anyway. It's all part of the cleansing process.
It's not external.
It's internal. Absolutely.
And we blame it on the plot.
So, like I said, they'll choose any creature. It was easy to choose on little insects because we had no microscopes. Now that we have microscopes, if people would just say, hey, let's prove this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see the proof. But guess who's funding all of the research? The pharmaceutical companies. Do you think the university is going to let you do work that will disprove it? Absolutely not. You will never get anywhere. It's just like those 8 full professors from Sweden 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when they did all of the research on acrylamides and what foods had high acrylamides, and showed that when you looked at cancer cells, tumors, almost 60% of the constituent of a tumor was acrylamides. So they realized getting rid of acrylamides was going to reduce cancer by 60%. So they called, when their research was over after about 8 years, these are all brilliant full professors, brilliant men who knew who knew what the evaluations were, what was required to do the research right. They had a news conference and said, we need to get rid of cereals, we need to get rid of donuts, we need to get rid of all chips, and we need to get rid of French fries. You know what happened? They're all working in high schools. They were demoted because they attacked $200 billion industry a year worldwide. $200 billion a year industry. So, weren't allowed to do that. That's what happens when you come out with the truth. That's against, the whole industrial machine. They're not out to protect you. They're not out to protect the environment. They're out to make money. That is it. They'll make gestures like Merck. Merck gets on these, public broadcasting and says, Merck, the company that cares. Yet if you look at their procedure manual for MDs that they've written, it's this thick, and it doesn't say anything about anything natural treatment. It's always drugs. Drugs, drugs, drugs. Merck's not a nice guy. He wants to appear as a nice guy, but it's not a nice guy. You agree with that, Amber? Okay, do you have a question?
All right, so I've been doing this 3 months today, and I'm still extremely ill every single day. Even now, you gave me things to eat every half hour. I took my stomach. And
I was good while I was here, so 2:30 to 8, 3 I did the, I think every half an hour, and I'm so sick as well. I'm just shaky. My mouth is like, no, I'm sick.
It's like metal.
Yeah.
See what that tells you?
Yeah, I know, but my problem is I need to be able to slow it up. So I cannot take care of my children right. I'm not to the point, I'm not enjoying any bit of anything I do at any time of the day. My kids are on me, I can't read, do all me, I just miss Disneyland. So how can I safely, because I'm doing liquid stuff, safely just, because over Christmas and that New Year stuff, I just had days where I ate food, and I felt, and I did it over an extended period sometimes a couple times a week, and then I'd go and get back on it, and then after a week I'd start feeling real bad again. I'm like, no, and I'd have days, and then I'm starting to be able to very easily justify it because I feel much worse. Now it's been 2 weeks today. I haven't had anything that's exactly what's on there, and I can't eat the amounts you're giving me still.
Right.
And I feel so forward right now, I would do almost anything to get back out of this.
Well, like I said, it depends
The
what you
second I wake
want.
up, as soon as I know that, but as soon as I drink that first egg in the morning, my day just takes a dot from that coming on. I mean, I ache so bad, my legs right now, my hands, everything. I'm going to throw up. It's horrible.
Well, you have to choose what kind of life you want. So
Right.
I would, if I were you, and I had, I would do it if I were you. I would definitely start eating a little cooked food. Pardon?
What's the safest way? Because I'm curing everything because of my Crohn's. So what would be? I mean, I could blend up a little cooked chicken.
Well, you just realize that grains are one of the worst things you can eat with Crohn's.
Okay.
Okay. Potatoes are also very bad for Crohn's. Those carbohydrates are bad. You could eat some cooked chicken. I don't suggest you eat cooked fish because of the high mercury. They get set free and then it is a poison. So cooked chicken, any cooked bird, turkey, anything like that. That's what I would
It would set me back how far?
Pardon?
It would set me back. So say right now, because I know you can't predict how long I feel like this. So say it's another month. And say I can stuff this through.
If you're tasting metal,
I taste it now. It's in my mouth. As soon as I
usually,
anytime I eat, so I said for an hour and a half, every half hour I did it. Because at home I'm waiting out. The longer I go without eating, the better I get. Even during one day, and as soon as it's a matter if it's cheese and nothing, not one. I never want to eat, and anything I eat, it doesn't taste good. It hurts. I mean, my stomach physically hurts when I'm just having it in there. So I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Well,
I don't want to mess up.
realize how much metals are in your stomach.
Right.
And in your whole system, and that's how you're
I know, but realizing
that
that is not helping me get through a day. My husband travels about 90% of the time. Between the preschool and school, I'm having trouble.
I would say you just have to learn your own seesaw balance with it.
Okay.
You do what you can do.
And then just add a little. So if I have a 20-minute period, then I'm supposed to go pick up my 4-year-old or something. Instead of trying to go for a walk or something, I should be trying to sleep.
Absolutely.
Because I do something, so I should be trying to sleep.
You're busy enough with your children. Now
Right.
we'll have to worry about exercise.
Well, I worry because I have the 10 activity ring.
Oh,
Yeah, and I do. I'm super anxious all the time. I'm worried every second. I'll call Barbara and I'm like, I'm so sick. I'm so sick. I can't go out walking. I'm not doing the diet right. I know my head's spinning constantly. And I do the nut formula, but man, it's so hard on my stomach. I don't want to eat anything.
What nuts are you using?
Pecans right now. I have one with some pecans.
Pecans are heavier and more difficult to digest. Try walnuts. Also, to slow your thyroid production down, you could use pine nuts.
Okay.
Alone or mixed?
Oh, as a nut formula.
Yeah.
In the nut formula. Pardon?
What is the pine nut?
Thyroid production.
Okay.
The what?
I don't have patience for meditation.
Yeah, no, she's 10 words.
People
10
keep saying go
activity
to
rings.
yoga, go do this. Oh no, I do the hot bath. I do that.
She does it every day.
No, every 3 or 4 days. Every 3 or 4 days I do the hot bath with whatever I'm supposed to drink.
Right.
But I have a jacuzzi and I have an infrared sauna. I do something hot every day because my legs are aching.
Yeah.
Especially this left one. You said the knee down. it hurts so bad, it gets where I can't stand it. So I now have 4 hot water bottles. I ordered 2 more.
This doesn't
and
work,
I packed
right?
this leg. Yeah, but I can't.
Stay that way. You have to be mobile.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have to be.
Well, you're between a rock and a hard place.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, fix that. That's what I need help on.
Give you a wrench and
I mean,
wrench and I'll take you apart.
Some of the nights I don't get to the meat, or I will blend up the chicken and meat and have the honey butter with it and stuff. But I'll never get to making the keeper because I'll call
Are
it
you drinking cabbage juice?
yeah, morning and night. 40% cabbage, celery, cucumber, and parsley. I don't get the amount down. I'm 8 to 16 ounces at night, and I get about 16 ounces in the morning. You know.
Just want to make sure you're having those important things.
Yeah. But I don't always get the keeper down every day, and I don't always get that meat meal down. I just can't get. By the end of the day, I'm worse as the day goes on. And then I'm too sick, or I just can't get up to make it. And I'm also, I'm doing 3, 4, 5 meals a day with the kids. You know what I mean? So all this stuff I just, so I'm going to try to get as much sleep in.
Absolutely, as much sleep as you can, and then, just singing. When you sing, 15 minutes of singing is worth an hour on a treadmill, for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it is that hard. So, sing to help get rid of some of that energy.
Okay.
Even if you don't have a good voice and everybody hates you for it, put earplugs on everybody or something. But you have to take care of yourself the best way you can.
Well, that's what, I try different things and stuff because I keep thinking to myself as I'm going through psychotic, I've got to eat every half hour. I've got to get my eggs down. I'm trying to do 18 to 24 days.
That's just so you don't lose weight.
I'm doing right. Well,
I
did it. Yeah, I did. I dropped a lot and I got scared and I started eating cooked food. And now I'm back and I'm back down. I'm down like 10 pounds, but I still have extra weight on.
But if I were you, I would go on and on, fluctuate, just whatever is comfortable for you.
So try tonight, I try a little bit of cooked chicken, see how I'm doing the next couple days.
Yeah.
And then if I hit where I'm getting real heavy again,
then you
I
need
can
some cooked chicken again.
Because I don't want to stop there.
Right. You just want to slow it. Yeah.
And what about the metal I keep in my mouth? There's nothing I can put in there. Clay doesn't have nothing.
Well, clay and cheese. Just the problem with the clay is that it sticks onto the intestinal walls if you have sores opening. When you have Crohn's disease, it means that the intestinal walls become so thin that lesions break and food passes into the gut undigested and goes to the knees and the hip joints and then eventually to the shoulder joints. And it causes swelling. I got a 13-year-old that was doctored, 13 and a half. Her knees were this big from it. On the diet in 6 months, it was all gone. She was normal. After a year, she went back to eating garbage food. 2 years later, she's back at the Crohn's again. Just don't go to an extreme. Don't eat all cooked foods only, but just do what can help you maintain.
Right.
So no claims saying someone who's got Crohn's?
Yeah, it's
I put it on my gums
tricky.
because my gums are hurt. My teeth are hurting.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it in my mouth, and I know I swallowed some of that during the night.
Yeah. Well, good to have cheese in your stomach. A lot of cheese. If you don't like the cheese, then what you have to do is take some clay and get it very wet, and let it be wet for like 4 or 5 days, and make it very thin, and then take it that way. And that way it's less likely to stick to your intestines.
And that'll help get the metal.
Yeah, help attract and hold on to the metals so they're leaving your body, not just recycling them.
Because sometimes I'll just sit and I'll just have a cup and I have to keep spinning because I don't want to swallow it because I'm thinking in my head that I'm putting it back in. And this should last how long? How long should this last?
I'm not God.
How long can it last? I mean, if I've been this heavy this long?
Well, I saw Wanda go through this kind of thing for about 7.5 years.
Don't say that.
That's the worst.
I'll be calling you.
That's the worst case I've seen.
Wow.
but she had 63 tumors in her body. You know, that kind of shit.
Was mindset help? In other words, sometimes I think that when you focus on the negative all the time, chronically, it amplifies it, and it actually makes it happen even more. And then if you take away even a tiny drop of that negativity, every day, one day, drop less, and you fill it with a drop of positive, sometimes emotionally, psychologically, things around.
That's very difficult for that approach. What I said in my book is fill your time with funny stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I was so sick, all I wanted to do was die. And that didn't help me get better. You know, I certainly wasn't able to enjoy a day when all I did was think about how I could kill myself that day. And I mean, I would spend 6 to 10 hours a day planning my death, never having the balls to do it. You know, never having the energy to do it. So what I decided to do instead was I started reading comedy novels, watching comedy shows, started to write. I got books on stand-up comedy, writing your own comedy. So I started looking at my life in the absurd. So I started making fun of myself and laughing at myself. So it got a lot easier. I mean, it really took my mind off of it. You have children, it's going to be more difficult to do because they take up all of your time. So maybe you can create a game, you know, of their behavior and your behavior with them, you know, just to make things funny. And that's work. It's work to be funny when you don't feel well.
Yeah, when I get, like, I was kind of okay for a while, like the last half hour. Now I'm really bad again because it's been sitting in my stomach for a while. And so, like, even if my kids were here, there's nothing right now that could distract me that keeps my mind off of how sick I am. I feel so totally sick right now. I almost feel like I could pass out. I'm so ill. It's like I'm just...
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, and so it doesn't... Even if I'm busy with the kids, you know what I mean? I cannot distract myself. There's no way at this point. An hour ago I could have done it, but I can't right now.
You have to do as much as you can.
All right. And I'm okay slowing down the food then in between and not eating every half hour.
If you need to function, you have to do what you have to do.
And then just build it up. Okay.
Do you have a question? Yeah. Oh, you did. That's right. Do you have a question, Mike?
What's the best diet dress?
Depends upon the athlete. Depends upon the athlete. What kind of athletics somebody's considering for you?
Yeah, yoga,
well, they're different activities. So if you're doing, you know, yoga and it's slower and not, I don't know, you're doing the high intensity yoga. When you do that, more red meat will create more physiological hormones where you have to produce more energy. And if you're going surfing, anything like that, that's a higher energy. If you're doing meditation, you're doing slow yoga, you want less red meat. More chicken. No, chicken and fish.
But you were
If you get too energetic when you have the red meat, then always eat white meat with the red meat. Yeah, that's right. If you got too much energy, then you eat white meat. Now remember, the white meat is a misnomer because, you know, the ostrich fits in the white meat category, but it's not white meat. It's as dark as liver, you know. So it's a misnomer. Any poultry, any seafood, any fish, that all fits in. You know, rabbit if you can get it, not fit on alfalfa pellets. You know, that fits into the white meat category. So white meat, don't really look at it as exact term.
It's just a type of thing.
Yes. It's just a category with a bad name. It's a misnomer. Okay. These are our hosts. Thank them. Lisa and Mike. Do you have a question, Lisa? I'll come back to you.
They haven't hit one yet, Jim.
Do you have a question?
You could ask something about
Do you have a
your...
question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know, how do you know it's a healing crisis, whether it's just a cold?
Well, a healing crisis always involves fever. A fever, if you're going through a detox, you can detox for 2 years doing the same thing, and you may never go into a healing crisis. A healing crisis, somebody else's tape went off here. A healing crisis is an event at the end of a long detoxification that could have been going on for, I've seen some detoxifications last 2.5 years. All of a sudden the body says, okay, we're finished for now. We are not going to detox this area of the body anymore, that specific tissue for that part of the body anymore. We're going to stop it. So the fever, as soon as you go up above 100 degrees, no parasites, no bacteria, no molds can regenerate. They stop procreation at that point. And if your fever lasts for about 48 hours, you've lost probably about 90% of the colony. Because they have to keep procreating, to keep going. And at that 48 hours of the fever, you've destroyed them. Also, when you have a fever, cells divide easily. And that's the healing crisis. And you start creating new cells rapidly. So a fever is always your indication of a healing crisis. A lot of people mistake a healing crisis as the end of a long detoxification, where they're just vomiting and coughing mucus up. If there's no fever involved, there's no healing crisis. It's just dumping the poison that has been going on from a long detoxification. Fever is the best thing you can have for healing and regenerating. Once you get through a fever, and you're usually fatigued for a period of time after that. That's because your body needs sleep to divide cells. 90% of cellular regeneration happens in the sleep state. So that's why people go into a lot of lethargy, to sleep even for maybe 4 or 5 days or a couple of weeks, depending on how ill they've been. Once that healing crisis is over, and all of a sudden you have energy, your life is completely different as long as you don't stop the fever. You stop that fever and you wiped out your healing crisis.
Would you rather feel alive?
No, you just let it run its course. Your body, let me tell you, trust your body. It will know. For that.
When you're having baths, though, that is increasing. I mean, a bath is an artificial
You're not,
fever
you're
to
not,
a degree.
yes, but you're only doing it for a maximum of an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So you're reducing the colonies of bacteria. You're forcing a reduction, but that's for an hour and a half. Let's say you've reduced it by 10-15% by having that fever.
Let's say you get the hot pool for a day and you're in the water for 6 hours.
6 hours, you probably reduce it by 1/4.
So you're not doing too much harm.
You're not doing any harm at all because you're going to be helping the body throw the poisons that have gotten from the lymph system. The lymph system has to dissolve them and neutralize them, put them in the connective tissue to be perspired out the pores. So that heat helps the body remove them with very little effort. Okay. All right. Do you have a question?
But before that, I want to know something. Pathogens in our body are good to absorb toxins, right? Now, what's the difference between batting a body of someone who's being processed cooked food and batting somebody's body with
The size of it?
With the kind of fat.
I know, it doesn't matter. Those fat still work. I always tell the story. I think I even told it here, didn't I, today? The guy, no, I guess I didn't. I told it before many times. I told it earlier to somebody, one of my patients. And this morning. I had a man come to me who had very thick skin. And he looked like he'd been a drug addict and an alcoholic for at least 25 years. But when I took his eyes, his irises, and read them, his body was, he's like 54, 55 years old, I recall. And he had been through a lot. And you could see in the skin, but yet inside he was like a 30-year-old man. Pretty clean. And he was only like 15, 20 pounds overweight. And I said to him, it doesn't make any sense. I can see that you've been a drug addict and an alcoholic for at least 25 years. He said, yeah, 30 years. And I said, it doesn't make any sense because your insides, your glands, and your organs are relatively clean for what you've done to yourself. Your skin didn't escape it, but your internal body did. He said, and I said, you're only, you're minorly overweight. And he said, well, before I went on your diet 4 months ago, I was 300 pounds. And he did 300 pounds on donuts and garbage while he, did his drugs and was in a motorcycle gang, for almost 30 years. So even that fat protected him. It isn't a fat that's easy to carry. It's, it can be exhausting when the heat gets high and high blood pressure, all kinds of other things. And if you're fat, you better have high blood pressure because you've got fat pushing on your veins and arteries. You better have high blood pressure to make sure they're expanded. So, and you better have high cholesterol levels because you need to be cleaning it out all the time to move some of that stuff. So the difference between the ideal fats to have in the body and the cooked fats are that if you have a lot of fat from the cooked fats, you'll be big. I'm fat, but you can't tell I'm fat. 26% body fat. You're probably 12% body fat, 13. I'm double what you are. But I don't look it, do I? That's because all the fat I eat is small, very small molecules. So I can be lighter, I can move, have more flexibility, I'm lighter. I get in the heat and it doesn't bother me. Person who's huge and overweight doesn't have an easy time with the heat. Okay? Cholesterol levels very, very important. Just remember that half the cholesterol, when you're on this diet, half the cholesterol in your blood is LDL leaving the body.
HDL and LDL, but which content come from? Is it renal or is it just...
Well, you have to understand the way they're manipulating it, it's not good. Because the pharmaceutical house says, if you have high cholesterol of any sort, we want you to take a medication to lower your cholesterol level. No matter if you have low LDL and high HDL. High HDL is supposed to be the good fat. Everybody's going to have half good and half bad because you're dumping fats that have already done their job and are on the way out. Those shouldn't be considered. Why consider them? So the pharmaceutical industry can say, hey, take this pill. You're not in what we consider a good measurement. Take this pill. It has nothing to do with reality.
So HDL good cholesterol, LDL bad cholesterol.
No.
Renal?
LDL is just a waste product. It's leaving your body.
And HDL
is fat that you can use and that you're digesting and that's working.
Depending on the fat.
No, it's not bad. It's just a waste. Yeah, it's telling you it's bad. It's just a waste product. It's on its way out. Now see, if you had a healthy body, all of those fats, the LDL, would be leaving through the lymphatic system. But because we're so toxic, the blood has taken up some of the lymphatic system's job.
So your cholesterol today would be what, the HDL?
Probably, altogether, probably 297. Right around there, 250, 297. That's my cholesterol level stays.
Mine was 650.
I have a champion athlete, basketball player, 650 in the Hall of Fame. He's a madman. He's great as long as his cholesterol's level high. Also had a Olympic gymnast. She had to stay at 357. If she didn't, she was too weak.
And along that, what about the triglycerides? If triglycerides is high,
Another garbage information. They don't even know what the fats do, and for them to tell you triglycerides are good and bad, it's absolute nonsense. Again, it's the pharmaceutical house's way to get you to go to a doctor and take medication.
They say whenever we find triglycerides, there's always high blood pressure, obesity.
Okay, what happened when the test came out of UK 2 months ago? They checked 45,000 people with high blood pressure. Those that took medication and lowered it to between 110 and 120 had all the heart attacks. People who didn't take the high blood pressure medicine and kept the high blood pressure 160 to 170, no heart attack. Shot them right out of water. Did that test get? It lasted a day in the news and was gone because there's no money in it. It just shot down trillions of dollars for people who are taking high blood pressure medicine.
High blood pressure is not a threat.
Oh, that's what they say it is. They say you're likely to have strokes and you're likely to have a heart attack with high blood pressure. And they proved just the opposite in these UK tests.
Is there a website or you can find the article?
Well, if you put in UK high blood pressure, probably put 45,000 number in. Put all the things that might go along in that article, and you probably come up with it.
The reason for coronary heart disease or heart disease are not related to cholesterol or high blood pressure.
It's related to plaquing.
Right.
Okay. I would say half of the heart attacks that appear because there's some malformation in the heart or there's congestion in your artery. That doesn't come from cholesterol. You have to look at what causes plaque in the body. The body takes poisons just like plaque on your teeth. That doesn't come from cholesterol. That comes from minerals, high calcium, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, binding with heavy metals. And it plaques onto the arterial walls, which are too dry. If they were slick with fats, there would be no sticking. There would be no sticking.
What about trans fatty acids?
Pardon?
What about trans fatty acids?
Trans fatty acids cause other problems. They cause a melting and deterioration of the body. They create acid.
But not the arteries?
No.
Not in the arteries at all?
In fact, triglycerides will help clean out plaque.
No, I didn't say triglycerides, I said trans fatty acids.
I mean, the trans fatty acids will actually be turned into solvents to deteriorate plaque, but it's just like chelation therapy. It takes lots of your minerals with those bad, so it thins the skin and easily tear inside. You can easily hemorrhage anywhere. So you have to be very careful of things like, chelation therapy. Let your cheese be the chelator, your clay be a chelator. Don't be chelating with these chemicals that they're selling.
Like hydrogen peroxide.
Dangerous.
What was it?
Hydrogen peroxide is one of them.
So people that have naturally low cholesterol and naturally low blood pressure, that are naturally low, that are not from taking medication, are they at health risk because they naturally have low blood pressure?
Not necessarily, it depends upon their diet. Because they could still have plaquing galore.
Right.
Do you have a question? Okay.
Weather, like I'm very affected by like weather changes, like over and it's all warm and other stuff. Like maybe like warm weather, mold directly, or cold weather, directly. What is it exactly?
Well, you have cold molds. Cold molds live in rock. That's why they usually have cheese caves, because that's what produces a certain kind of mold at that temperature. You also have molds that come about after the rain in higher temperatures. There are molds for all, just like there are bacteria, and except up to 100 degrees, then they start becoming destroyed. But you have bacteria, parasites that survive different temperatures and do better with different temperatures and different humidity. Well, it could be two things. You are very toxic at certain temperatures, and it destroys all the molds. The molds that you need to help you get rid of toxicity may be not active, or they may be overactive. If you have yellowish skin following that period of time where you're anxious, that means those molds are very active and overactive. If you don't have yellow skin, if you have pink skin or white skin, that's a sign that the molds are not active. Well, you could have very poor circulation. A lot of people who have been vegetarians have vegetable oils built into their cells. Remember, vegetable oils solidify at body temperature, human body temperature. It takes an herbivore, which has a body temperature of 101 to 105 degrees, to keep that fat liquid. So it's like putting olive oil in the refrigerator, even at your body temperature. It is too cold for vegetable oils. So people who've been long-term vegetarians their cells are built from the vegetable oils that will solidify at 98.6 and lower. So when the temperature of your body drops, you become solidified. Your lymph system doesn't move. Your blood doesn't circulate as well. And then you get cold. There, you were dumping. Yeah, you were dumping all those. You were melting them and then moving them out of the body. It's per the individual. I would go with as warm as you can take. Warm is always the best. You know, they say for multiple sclerosis, don't go in the heat because it will cause more nerve degeneration. Well, if you're in the right diet, I send my patients who have MS into a tropical environment. I had one woman from Canada that she had to fly down to see me. I told her, just send me $6,000, I'll go see you in Canada. It cost her $6,000 to fly down here because she had to buy 4 first-class seats that had to be removed, and then they had to bolt her gurney down in first class. Cost her over $6,000 for her to come down here to come to Malibu to see me, because not only there, she had to take a a life squad vehicle from the airport to my home in Malibu. You know, that's a long trip. So I sent her to the tropics. She's now functioning on her own. This is 7 years later. She lives in southern Mexico, and she's in a tropical environment, and she's functioning now. You could get this close to her, and you could wake her up and she'd scream. Getting that close to her. This is a woman who was asleep. That close, and she would wake up like she were touched. That's how sensitive you can be when you have MS. And that's how bad she was. Now you can touch her. She walks, you know. She's not bedridden all the time. She used to have servants. She had to take all of her servants with her. Used to. Now she just has one housekeeper. So,
Where does she live in Mexico?
Can't say.
But I'm saying this.
If I give too much information, somebody could, you know.
Yeah. But the warm climate you're saying helps her body do what?
Just remember, your body regenerates better at higher temperatures. Just like when you're in a fever. Like when you're in a fever, you produce cells better. So you
as
feel
long
better.
as she's on the diet and she's warm, that's helping, but she still has the MS, or is she actually recovering and regenerating?
She's recovering and regenerating. It's probably another couple of years and she'll be all through it. And let me tell you, getting this woman with skin and bones looks like she just came out of Auschwitz. Now, finally, you know, it's taken all these years for her to put on weight, and now she went from a size 2. This is a woman who's 5'6". She went from a size 2 dress to a size 12. She did it. Yes, left alone, absolutely.
Not either. Size 12 is not that big. It's not a big size. Think about 21 or something. 12's not a big size.
Okay, what time is it?
Time to eat.
Is it 5 o'clock? 5 till 5. Well, we got through it. We did it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, those people who want minis? Yep. You want 2? Okay.